All right, so we are here to go over the review questions, the SAT questions for our upcoming linear regression quiz. So you're going to see that the vast majority of these questions have to do with interpreting the slope and the y-intercept. So we've talked a lot about that over the past few days. So hopefully you'll get a sense to see how this looks when you actually look at SAT questions. So this first question, I had to put it onto two slides because it was using this figure. And it's saying in this graph, you have a scatter plot, and they've gone ahead and the line of best fit, you'll notice, is actually going through all the dots. So this is very uncommon, all right? So this would be a correlation coefficient of exactly +1. So we're saying that the time in hours explains the total cost of renting a boat. Okay, so they've said that the total cost is going to be C, so their Y value is C, and their X value is H for hours. Okay, so let's look at the question. It says, what does the C-intercept? Now, again, C was really their Y value, all right, for their Y-axis. So this is really asking about the Y-intercept. What does the Y-intercept represent in the graph? So if we go look, the y-intercept is right here, okay? And if you think back to how we discussed this without context, the y-intercept is the when you have an x value of 0, all right? So when you have an x value of 0, the y-intercept is your y value, all right? So in this case, if I had to say the sentence in the context of this renting a boat by the hour problem, I would say for 0 hours of renting the boat. So that means I have not actually started my time of renting the boat. For 0 hours of renting the boat, it's going to cost me $5, it looks like, okay? So when we look at the answer choices, all right, we look at these answer choices. Answer choice B says the total number of boats rented. Doesn't mention anything about more than one boat. All right, we're just saying that for 0 hours, it's going to cost us $5. All right, the total number of hours the boat is rented. Now that $5 is the amount of money, not an amount of hours. The increase in cost to rent the boat for each additional hour. Now this answer choice D is something you need to know, but this answer choice D is actually describing the slope. All right, so if this question had asked to interpret the slope of this line of best fit, then D would be the answer. But D is not the answer because it's asking about the y-intercept. So that is the initial cost for renting the boat. So no matter how many hours you end up renting the boat, you know that that initial fee of $5 allows you to actually get the boat, and then the charges begin once you actually get on the water. All right, so that's the answer for number one. Okay, number two. Number two actually gives you the line, all right, the equation in this one. All right, so you can see immediately that we have 0.56 is the number next to your x variable, so that is the slope, and 27.2 is not with any variable, so that's the y-intercept. All right, it tells us that x represents the number of years since 2000, and y represents the average number of students per classroom. So it wants us to describe, so interpret, the meaning of 0.56. So this is a question of asking you to interpret the slope. All right, so now for the slope, remember, without context, the slope is for each additional unit of x, the y value will change by the slope. So for each additional unit of x, the y value will change by the slope. So in this problem, for each additional unit of x is for another year. All right, for another year, the average number of students per classroom will change by 0.56 students. All right, so when I look at my answer choices, the total number of students at the school in 2000. No, we would actually look at that as the y-intercept. No, that's not the y-intercept. That would be, if it said the average number of students at the school in 2000 for each classroom, that would be the y-intercept. So that's, number A is nothing we've talked about. B, the average number of students per classroom in 2000. So that is what I was just thinking about. This is really asking about, or telling you the y-intercept in answer choice B. So B is not the answer because it's not talking to you about the y-intercept. That would be 27.2. The estimated increase in the average number of students per classroom each year. Okay, so this is it, because we're saying that we increase each year. So for each year, The slope is the increase in the average number of students per classroom. So it's actually written in a different order than I've taught you to write it, but ultimately all the stuff, all the pieces are there for C. And let's just look at D. The estimated difference between the average number of students per classroom in 2010 and 2000. You could find that by plugging in 0 and 10 into X and then subtracting, but that's not what they're asking us to do here. Okay, so C is the answer for the slope. Okay, number 3. All right, another one where they give you the equation, and it says the total amount T in dollars that Salim will pay for N tickets to this tennis match. All right, and it wants to know what 12 represents. So that 12 is the y-intercept. So this is a question asking you to interpret the y-intercept. Okay, so the y-intercept is that for 0 tickets, all right, so if we're talking about 0 for the X, that's the letter N. For 0 tickets, we expect Salim to pay $12. All right, so we're looking for that answer choice. For 0 tickets, we expect Salim to pay $12. So the price of 1 ticket, no, we said 0 tickets, so it's not A. The amount of the service fee in dollars, it could be that, all right, because again, we're talking about 0 tickets, you still got to pay $12, so all those fees online. Or the vendor, I guess. The total amount in dollars Salim will pay for 1 ticket. Again, no, we're talking about 0 tickets. The total amount in dollars Salim will pay for any number of tickets. No, that's the entire equation represents that. So the only one that makes sense here is B, the amount of the service fee in dollars. Because remember, the service fee is going to get tacked on no matter if you buy 0 tickets or any number of tickets. So that's why the 12, the y-intercept, is the service fee. Okay, number 4. Another example where they give you the equation. And it says P is the number of phones that Kathy has left to repair, and D is the number of days she has worked that week. All right, so what's the meaning of the 108? Now, I chose this question on the review because you'll notice that it's in a different order than the way that we've been writing all of these equations. It actually goes P equals 108 minus 23 times D. So the y-intercept is the 108. So the y-intercept is 108, and the slope would be negative 23. All right, so it's asking you to think about the y-intercept here. Okay, so that means for 0 in the X, in this case, the D is our X. So for 0 days that she has worked this week, all right, so if she has worked 0 days this week, so I guess like the beginning of the week, she hasn't worked yet. If she's worked 0 days this week so far, she has 108 phones left to repair. So I'm looking for that answer choice in my answers. So she's worked 0 days so far this week. She has 108 phones left to repair, okay? So A, Kathy will complete the repairs within 108 days. No, this really is talking about phones, not days. Kathy starts each week with 108 phones to fix. That sounds like what we're talking about, where she's worked no days, so she's starting the week without working. She's got 108 left to fix. Kathy repairs phones at a rate of 108 per hour. This has nothing to do with hour and rate. It's talking about slope, so that's not right. And then Kathy repairs phones at a rate of 108 per day. Actually, she repairs phones at a rate of 23 per day. That would be the slope. So the answer is going to be B. All right, so when she's worked 0 days, so to start the week, she's worked no days, she has 108 phones left to fix. So that's why it is B. Okay, number 5. Number 5 gives you the model. It says that the total cost, Y in dollars, that a company charges a customer to rent a truck for 1 day and drive the truck X miles. All right, so again, a little bit similar to why I chose number 4. It's in a different order, so the y-intercept is actually 1999. So the y-intercept is 1999. All right, so it says, what does the y-intercept represent? All right, so immediately, I know that the y-intercept is 1999, so I know it's not going to be B or D, because they're giving you the numbers and the answers, so it needs to say something about $19.99. Now, when you look at these answer choices, let's think about what it means to interpret the y-intercept. All right, the y-intercept is for 0 in the X, then your y value is the y-intercept, okay? So if we have 0 miles that the truck has been driven, so if the truck is driven 0 miles, then the cost all right, to rent that truck is $19.99 per day. All right, so when we look at our answer choices, answer choice A is going to be the answer, right? Because that flat fee has nothing to do with how much they've driven, because they've driven no miles. And in C, a charge per mile of $19.99. Actually, C is talking about the slope, and that would be correct for the slope if it said a charge per mile of $1.50. That $1.50 in the slope is how much you're going to have to pay per mile that you drive the truck. All right, so 5 is A. All right, let's flip it over to 6. Okay, so in number 6, they don't actually give you the line of best fit as an equation. Now they've got it on the actual scatter plot. So this is talking about the total protein for 8 sandwiches in grams. It explains the total fat of these 8 sandwiches in grams. All right, you can see it's very tightly clustered around the line, so very strong. All right, there's only 8 data values, so obviously it's a little tough to see here. It would be great if we had more. It says, according to the line of best fit, which of the following is closest to the predicted increase in total fat in grams for every increase of 1 gram in total protein? So this is actually asking about the slope. All right. Now, this is a little tricky because they don't actually give you the equation. It'd be nice if they did, because we just find the slope. So what I would do here, all right, is according to the line of best fit, you want to first just find some points that are on your line of best fit. So I'm really just ignoring, all right, I'm going to ignore the points that I actually have and focus on the line of best fit. So it's up to you how you want to do this. I chose kind of the first two here, this point and that point on my line. So this point, right, if I erase it, you can kind of see it a little easier. That point I'm going to use for an ordered pair. I'm going to use 10 in the X. All right, we're saying 10 grams of protein. And then for my Y value, if I just ballpark it, I think it's probably about 18. All right, so 18 grams of fat. And if I use this point here, right there, if I ballpark that, it's 20 for the x-axis, 20 total grams in protein. And then for the y value, I'm going to choose, I mean, it's up to you. I'm going to choose 33, but anywhere between 32 and 34 would get you approximately the answer. So the way I did this was I used my slope formula because it's asking for slope. So that's equal to the change in y over the change in x. All right, so if I plug in those values, I get 33 minus 18 over 20 minus 10. If you do that math, you get, what is that, 15 over 10. If you divide 15 and 10, you get 1.5. The answer is C. All right, now this was a tricky one because you actually had to use the slope formula. All right, but hopefully you remember the change in y over the change in x. Okay? All right, let's look at number 7. Number 7. Now, in this case, it's giving us, all right, kind of like in number 6, it's giving us a scatter plot. This one seems to have a little bit more scatter, so not nearly as strong as the last one. You got more data values. Got 18 points now, so that's a little more helpful. And it's telling us that the mean annual temperature in these 18 forests in Canada, so the mean annual temperature explains the leaf litter mass that's remaining as a percentage. Okay? Now, if you look at the question, based on the line of best fit, which of the following is closest to the predicted percent of leaf litter mass remaining in this particular forest after decomposing for 3 years? All right? So it looks like that we have a particular forest in Canada whose data is not included, and it has a mean annual temperature of -2 degrees Celsius. So if we're going to use this line, I'm looking for -2 degrees Celsius on my line. So that's going to be probably, if this is -2.5, right? That's -2.5. Then -2 is probably somewhere around here. So if I go up here, probably somewhere around here. Where's that line for you? Somewhere around there. And if you look, as the y value is probably somewhere around 70%. All right, so that's the predicted leaf litter mass remaining as a percentage. So if I look at my answer choices, I'm looking for something that's around 70%. And lo and behold, when you look at answer choice C, it is exactly 70%. But I would have picked the one that is closest to 70% if I didn't see 70% there. All right, so this question, number 7, and it's going to be, you'll have to do some stuff like that on the quiz. You want to make sure that you understand how to read the line of best fit when they don't give you the actual equation, when they just give it to you on the scatter plot. So we did this a couple times in our notes, but I want to make sure that you get a chance to see how it looks on the SAT. All right, so that's all the questions here that I've done for the review. So take a listen, all right, review this, and good luck on the quiz.